Welcome to another Look What I Found, and this time, fairy stone and jellyfish fossils, amongst other things. Today is the first day of December 2015. We had snow a few days back, but despite cold nights, it is all gone. I had to go to my bank today where I found many awesome fossils and curious stones. Up until today, two different crinoid fossils were the nicest pieces I had found at this site. Today's fossils and rocks give the crinoids some competition. Let's begin with a nice fairy stone. Interestingly, I have read that the Indians named these fairy stones and have called them that for over a century. The article further said that they often carried them as charmed stones, especially when they went off on fishing or hunting expeditions. Lovers are said to have offered the most beautiful fairy stones to their loved ones. The biggest specimens occupied a place of honor in their lodges, or according to the legends of the special stones assured a protection against the bad spirits. The fairy stone I found sparkles in the light, so I assume that this has quartz crystal that sparkles like a field of snowflakes on a bright wintry morning. The stone is very porous, and I believe this is to be a metamorphic rock in nature, that is to say, was formed with extreme heat and pressure. Looking down on one side, it resembles a domed flying saucer. Looking down on it from the other side, it looks like a round face with a humongous fat nose hanging down. Whilst I have found many concretions over the years, this is the only fairy stone I've ever found, and perhaps it is a sign of good luck to come. Next up is an awesome nodule that I found already split open, and what's inside is pretty cool. The darkened area in the center is the fossilized impression of a jellyfish. On the left-hand side of the nodule are two small brachiopods, an extinct form of shellfish. Right by the brachiopod is an odd round formation that stands out of the matrix. I can reasonably identify most of the surfaces with a magnifying glass, but that same glass reveals many tiny fossil formations, but too small for me to identify. There is some sparkling, so there are either small quartz crystals or possibly mica in the matrix. Next up, again, this stone was broken open by natural forces, and judging from the outside, you would never have guessed it would certainly contain anything of interest on the inside. Inside are two small impressions with myriad of little bumps on it. What are we looking at exactly? These are fossil bryozoans. What's that? Glad you asked. Glad you axed, as they say here in the city. I hate that. Axed instead of asked. But anyways, according to Wikipedia, the bryozoan is more commonly called the moss animal. They were, and still are, an aquatic invertebrate who are filter feeders. They sieve food particles out of the water using a retractable crown of tentacles lined with cilia. There are today varieties that survive in the salty waters of the ocean and also in fresh water. Presumably, it was the same in ancient times. Because of the unique way the fossil looks, many people think that it is fossil dinosaur skin, and it does sort of look like that. There are over 4,000 species of bryozoans known today, and plus the known extinct species makes it a fairly large family. Now what have we here? This looks much like a fossil fish fin, and that's exactly what I believe it is, though I am somewhat, I assume someone would debate that with me. Looking at the fossil, though, you'll notice the end of the formation is rounded, as most pectoral fins are on a fish. The lines are exactly like the bones in most fin structures. There is no way that I can tell them this fossil there's no way I can tell from the fossil, what species of fish this came from. There is an odd fossil formation next to the fin. It's rectangular in shape, and I have no idea what kind of fossil that was from. So, if you have any thoughts on what it may be, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. And lastly are some squiggly marks on the flat surface of a fossilized piece of mud. That's right, mud. Those marks are what is known as a trace fossil. Trace fossils let you know that something was there, and though it is usually not possible to tell what made the marks, they are still quite fascinating. These marks were likely made by some little amphibian critter that left his impression in the mud. Several of the marks look like Y-shaped footprints. Trace fossils are quite common and also very interesting. The fossilized mud will usually split open so you can easily examine whether there are fossils in it or not. Well, that's it for this time, and thanks for stopping by. While you're here, why not subscribe to the Dennis Morrison channel so you don't miss out on a single program as they come out. Have a great evening. God bless.